New details surrounding the mysterious death in Mexico of a North Carolina woman. Questions started swirling after a cell phone video of her being brutally beaten went viral.
Quilla, can you at least fight back?
No.
At least something. At least.
A doctor stands in a luxury villa in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. It's late October 2022. On the floor in front of him, a 25-year-old woman is slipping away. He's been here for hours. He keeps saying the same thing. Call an ambulance. She needs a hospital. Now. 6 people are in that villa with him. They're her friends. They flew down here together just yesterday, and every single time he tells them to call for help, they say no. Hours pass. She's getting worse. He keeps asking. They keep refusing. By the time they finally agree, it's too late. Her name was Shanquella Robinson. She came to Mexico alive and left in a casket. Her friends all made it home just fine. The question that's haunted this case for 3 years is simple. Why wouldn't they save her? Welcome to Domestic Crime Ledger. If this is your first time here, I'd hit that subscribe button and drop a like. And comment below. Where are you watching from? Let's get into it. October 28th, 2022. Shanquella Robinson touches down in Cabo San Lucas with 6 people she's known since college. She's 25 years old, runs her own hair braiding business back in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she's all over social media living her life. This trip is supposed to be fun, a chance to relax, a weekend with friends. She trusts these people. They went to Winston-Salem State University together. They've known each other for years. 24 hours later, Shanquella is dead. All 6 of her friends board a plane back to the United States. They walk off that plane alive and well. Shanquella comes home in a casket. Her mother, Salamandra, gets the call. Your daughter is gone. And then the explanations start coming. One friend says it was alcohol poisoning. She drank too much. It happened so fast. A tragic accident under the Mexican sun. Salamandra is devastated, but she believes them. Why wouldn't she? These are people her daughter trusted enough to leave the country with. Then she starts talking to the others. One says they found Shanquella on the floor. Another says she was in bed. Someone else says she was sitting in a chair. The details keep shifting. The story keeps changing. 6 people were in that villa, and not one of them can tell her the same thing about where her daughter died. Something is very wrong. Salamandra keeps asking questions. The friends keep talking. But nothing lines up. Nothing makes sense. What really happened in that villa? Why can't 6 people agree on a single version of events? And what are they so desperate to hide? Then the death certificate arrives from Mexico. It lists the cause of death as severe spinal cord injury and atlas luxation. That means her skull was separated from the top of her spine. Her neck was broken. You don't get injuries like that from drinking too much tequila. Those are injuries you get from serious physical trauma. Her father, Bernard, is destroyed. Shanquella was their only child, but they accept what they're being told because these were her friends. People she laughed with. People she chose to travel with. Why would they lie? Everything they told her mother was a lie. Salamandra reads it again, then again. Nothing about this matches what she was told. Not even close. She starts calling the friends, asking more questions, pushing for details. And that's when the cracks really start to show. One person says they found Shanquella on the floor of the villa. Another says she was lying in bed. A third says she was sitting in a chair. The location keeps changing depending on who's talking. 6 people were there. 6 people saw what happened. And somehow, not one of them can agree on the most basic facts. Where was she when she died? What was she doing before that? Who was with her? The answers don't line up. The timeline doesn't make sense. And the more Salamandra digs, the more it becomes clear that someone is lying. Maybe all of them. Bernard later says in an interview that he just wants to know the truth.
She gone. I'm her dad, so now I got to stand for her. I got to be her voice.
Then, weeks after Shanquella's death, a video starts circulating online. It spreads fast. Millions of people see it. And what's on that video changes everything. What that video showed made the whole world stop. Pause for a second. If your friend was hurt on a trip, would you lie to their parents? Drop a comment. The video is filmed inside a bedroom at the villa. A naked woman is being beaten by another woman. She's not fighting back. She's not defending herself. She's just taking hit after hit. In the background, you can hear voices. Someone says,
Quilla, can you at least fight back?
Another voice urges her to get up, but no one steps in to stop it. No one pulls the attacker away. Someone is holding a phone, recording the whole thing. The woman being beaten is Shanquella Robinson. Her friends called her Qua. The woman throwing the punches is Dejani Jackson. Today, she goes by a different name, Imani Green. We'll get to why she changed it later. When this video goes viral, everything shifts. This is not alcohol poisoning. This is not a slip and fall. This is not some mystery illness that came out of nowhere. This is an assault, caught on camera, and Shanquella died just hours after it happened. The timeline starts to come together. The beating takes place in the early morning hours of October 29th. After it's over, Shanquella is in bad shape. She needs help, real help. But instead of calling 911, instead of rushing her to the nearest hospital, the group calls a private doctor to come to the villa. The doctor arrives. He examines Shanquella, and according to police reports, he spends hours with her. During that time, he tells the group over and over again, she needs an ambulance. She needs to go to a hospital. This is serious. They say, no. He keeps insisting, she's getting worse. You need to call for emergency help, now. They refuse. This goes on for hours. A medical professional is standing right there, telling them their friend is in danger, and they will not pick up the phone. By the time they finally agree to call an ambulance, it's too late. Shanquella is gone. Let that sink in for a moment. A doctor looked at her and knew she was dying. He told them exactly what to do, and they chose not to do it. Why? What were they afraid of? What were they trying to avoid? If this was really just a tragic accident like they claimed, why wouldn't you do everything possible to save her? So why would you refuse medical help for someone you claim is your friend? The Mexican authorities perform an autopsy. Their findings are clear. Shanquella died from severe spinal cord injury and atlas luxation. Her neck was broken. Her spine was damaged. And here's something critical. There was no alcohol in her system. None. The story about alcohol poisoning was completely false. Mexican officials don't treat this like an accident. They classify her death as femicide. That's the murder of a woman specifically because she's a woman. It's a serious charge. They're calling this a violent, gender-based killing. In November of 2022, Mexican prosecutors issue an arrest warrant. They're looking for what they call the direct aggressor. They don't publicly name the person, but it's widely believed to be Dejani Jackson, now known as Imani Green. But here's where things get complicated. Shanquella's body is brought back to Charlotte. A second autopsy is performed in the United States. This time, the findings are different. The medical examiner says her spine is intact, not broken. But they do find other injuries. She has a hematoma on her forehead, which means blunt force trauma. Her brain was swelling. She also had what's called hypoxic ischemic brain injury. That happens when the brain doesn't get enough oxygen. The final ruling? Cause of death, undetermined. So now we have two autopsies, two different conclusions. One says her spine was broken, the other says it wasn't. And the official cause of death in the U.S. is listed as undetermined. The truth is getting buried under all this confusion. But here's what both autopsies agree on. This was not alcohol poisoning. Not even close. Meanwhile, the friends changed their story again. Now they're saying Shanquella hit her head on the toilet. That's the new explanation. No more talk about drinking too much. Now it's a fall in the bathroom. But the video shows a beating. The Mexican death certificate shows trauma. A doctor begged them to get her to a hospital, and they refused. None of that fits with accidentally hitting your head and everything being fine. And that's when the FBI got involved. What they found, and didn't find, is where this gets even messier. Who do you trust more here? Mexican authorities who called it murder, or U.S. investigators who said there wasn't enough evidence? A or B? Defend it in the comments. The FBI opens an investigation. They interview the 6 people who were on the trip. They search phones. They review evidence. They communicate with Mexican authorities. In February of 2025, the FBI releases part of their findings, but the report is heavily redacted. That means huge sections are blacked out. Most of the information is hidden from the public. Still, some details make it through. According to the report, someone in the group tried to locate security footage from the villa. Think about that. Why would you be scrambling to find camera footage unless you knew something bad was recorded? If this was really just an accident, why would you need to track down video evidence? The report also mentions that someone saw photographs of Shanquella's body after she died. That person described the images and said it looked like she had been stomped on. Stomped on. Those are the words used. The FBI also notes that one of the friends was extremely distraught after Shanquella's death. This person reportedly couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, was clearly shaken by what happened. But here's the problem. Even though that person was upset, no one in that villa called for help in time. No one made the decision to save her life when it mattered. Then, in April of 2023, U.S. federal prosecutors make an announcement. After reviewing all the evidence, they've decided not to pursue federal charges. Their reason? Insufficient evidence. They say they can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a federal crime was committed. Let that sink in for a second. There's a video of Shanquella being beaten. There's a death certificate showing she died from trauma. There are 6 people who lied about what happened. A doctor begged them to call an ambulance and they refused. And somehow, that's not enough evidence to charge anyone with anything. Mexico issued an arrest warrant back in November of 2022. But it just sits there. No one is extradited. No one is arrested. No one is held accountable. Shanquella's parents are left with nothing but grief and questions. So they hire Ben Crump, one of the most well-known civil rights attorneys in the country. In October of 2024, they file a wrongful death lawsuit against all 6 people who were on that trip. The lawsuit lays it all out: the assault, the lies, the refusal to get medical help, the cover-up. But here's the thing. One of those 6 friends did something that tells you everything you need to know about guilt. Right in the middle of the wrongful death lawsuit, Dejani Jackson does something unusual. She legally changes her name to Imani Green. Shanquella's family and their attorneys immediately raise questions. They argue that she changed her name to avoid being served legal papers, to make it harder to hold her accountable, to essentially disappear while still being right there. You don't change your name in the middle of a wrongful death case unless you're running from something. Imani Green then files a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. Her defense? Self-defense. She also claims the lawsuit wasn't properly served to her and that the statute of limitations has already passed. Self-defense. Against a naked woman who wasn't fighting back. Against someone who, in the video, is clearly not a threat. But here's where the story takes another turn. In January of 2026, the Crime Junkie podcast releases an episode about Shanquella's case. They interview a man they only identify as Mike. He says he was in Cabo that same weekend, and he's never spoken to law enforcement about what he saw. According to Mike, Imani Green, who was still going by Dejani Jackson at the time, called him around 3 a.m. On October 29th, she was crying. She was upset. and she told him she wanted Shanquella to leave the trip. There had been some kind of argument while the group was drinking. Hours later, the beating happens. Mike says he arrived at the villa after the assault, but before Shanquella died. The group told him she was suffering from alcohol poisoning. He believed them. He had no reason not to. But now the timeline is crystal clear. Tension at 3 a.m. An argument. Someone wants Shanquella gone. Then, in the early morning, the assault happens. After that, a doctor arrives and begs them to call an ambulance. They refuse. By the afternoon, Shanquella is dead. So let's be clear about what we know. There was a fight before the beating. Someone wanted her gone. The assault was filmed. A doctor begged them to save her. They said no. And then they lied. Then one of them changed her name. And the legal system? It's been 3 years. Here's where it stands now. If this case makes you as angry as it makes me, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because we don't let stories like this disappear. In October of 2024, Shanquella Robinson files a wrongful death lawsuit in North Carolina. The lawsuit names all 6 people who were on the trip with her daughter. The claims include wrongful death, negligence, battery, conspiracy, and emotional distress. The 6 defendants, now known as the Cabo Six, push back hard. Their attorneys argue that the case doesn't belong in North Carolina. They say it should be heard in Mexico because that's where everything happened. They point out that 24 witnesses are in Mexico. They mention language barriers, and they say all the key evidence is overseas, but Shanquella's family attorney, Swan Robinson, fires back with something that should be common sense.
United States citizen should not be allowed to go overseas, harm another, or be involved in harm with another United States citizen and come back to the United States and essentially say that they're not going to be held liable, accountable, or responsible. 5
of the 6 defendants have responded to the lawsuit. But one person, Malik Dyer, has not responded at all. The family doesn't stop there. They also file a separate lawsuit against the FBI and the U.S. State Department. This one is for $100 million. They accuse both agencies of conducting a negligent investigation, withholding public records, and failing to push forward an extradition request to bring someone back from Mexico to face charges. In June of 2025, a federal judge dismisses the claims against the FBI and the State Department. The reason? Sovereign immunity. That's a legal protection that prevents the government from being sued in most cases. Then, on January 27, 2026, the case is sent back to North Carolina State Court. The judge rules that only state law claims remain against the 6 individuals. The federal court no longer has jurisdiction. So now the wrongful death lawsuit is back where it started, in state court, against the Cabo Six. But here's what hasn't changed. No trial date has been set. No one has been arrested. No one has been extradited from the United States to Mexico, even though an arrest warrant was issued more than 3 years ago. 3 years later, Shanquella's father is still waiting. And what he said should haunt all of us. Bernard Robinson spoke about his daughter in an interview. He said, "This father right here is lost because I don't know why y'all did what y'all did."
She wasn't perfect, but she did not deserve for them 6 individuals to take her life and come back here and lie about it, and nothing not being done about it.
He also said, "I can be her voice, and that's all I'm asking for is the United States of America to step in and look at this case and make it right. Just make it right to this father." Shanquella is still fighting. She's fighting for justice while the people responsible walk free, while one of them changes her name, while they file motions to dismiss, while they argue about which country should hear the case. Shanquella Robinson was someone's only child. She was a businesswoman who owned her own hair braiding business. She was a friend people trusted enough to travel to another country with. She went on vacation and came home dead because 6 people chose themselves over her life. Here's what we know. She was beaten. A doctor tried to save her. They refused to get help. They lied to her parents. One of them changed her name in the middle of a lawsuit. Here's what we don't know. Will anyone ever be held accountable? It's been 3 years. No arrests, no trial, no justice. Attorneys Ben Crump and Swan Robinson released a statement saying it is not only heartbreaking but unacceptable that 3 years later no criminal charges have been brought. They're urging the FBI to release more information and bring Shanquella's family the closure they deserve. Her family and supporters say they won't stop fighting until she gets justice. One supporter said,
"A young lady lost her life that shouldn't have lost her life. Justice for me would be to see all those that were responsible to be held accountable."
How do you live with yourself knowing you watched someone die, lied about it, and walked away? Shanquella Robinson deserved better. She still does. And until someone answers for what happened in that villa, her family will keep fighting. So will we. Rest in peace, Shanquella. If you believe Shanquella's story deserves to be heard, share this video. Send it to someone who needs to see it. Keep her name alive. Keep the pressure on. And if you want more cases like this, cases that demand answers and refuse to be forgotten, hit that subscribe button one more time and turn on all notifications. We're not done fighting for justice. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.